Hey, it's Ray Langley at your service. Virtual entertainer and wolf girl extraordinaire. Welcome to our reading stream today. And today I have a very special gift for you all today. How many times am I going to say today? I am going to be reading some viewer submitted fan fiction for you all. As promised, since tomorrow, in my time zone, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so I figured why not get into the mood a little bit. Welcome in to Candace, Army, Plurry. Good to see you all. How are you all doing today? Bongo cats, you. Oh, I forgot to submit Brawl in the Family. No worries. If you forgot to submit something this time, there'll always be next time. This is not the last time I'll be doing a silly reading stream, so you can always submit your idea for another time. Let's see. How is everyone today? Got into an accident. Had a little accident. Oh man. Hope you're feeling better. Alright, so today I have a few viewer submitted works from Archive of Our Own. Permission was obtained from the original writers, so I will be reading these with the okay of the author, and I will of course be linking them in the chat so that you can read along. Now, since this is fan fiction, these characters, people, do have existing voices. I am not a voice impressionist. I am one of those voice actors that doesn't do impressions that well, so these voices are going to be approximations or simply just not really going to try that hard to replicate those voices. My Kamiyoshi may be someone who can mimic anyone. I am not like that. We're gonna start off with this one, which I will be linking again in the chat, so here you go. Feel free to follow along, and yeah, I will be audiobooking these so that they're not entirely like audio dramas. They're just going to be more of a simplistic style because, like I said, yeah. All right. So this one is titled Preening, written by Arietti, also known as R. Raccoona. And this one seems to be a, surprise, surprise, Blood Raven fic. Of course my viewers would submit those. What can I say? Blood Raven's peak. If it is second to anything, it's Auto Fister. Speaking of, did you see those two karaoke last night? Ridiculous. They are ridiculous. They give me cuteness aggression. Anyway. Alright. As far as I know, from what I vetted, through the submissions, all of these are safe for work, by the way. So you guys are cowards. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I told you guys I was willing to read spicy fanfiction, and you guys had the perfect opportunity, and you all wasted it. You all submitted safe for work stuff. I'm disappointed. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love you all. Let me get the heavy artillery? uh. No, I'm pretty sure if I read there's a certain threshold in which YouTube would just go monetized or not. I don't care how big your following is. We're just gonna kill you. Bongo Cats, where's the 50 Shades? Time to get the whoa. Maybe not that one. Dark Knight Returns clip about the detonator. Where's the Yuri? Alright. So, yeah, this one is titled Preening by Arietti. Summary. When Nerissa is too sleepy to preen her own wings, Elizabeth is happy to lend a hand. Notes. I've been wanting to write something like this for a while. And this was published last summer. Ooh. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna do this. By the way, is the music too loud for you guys? Because I want to have like a little bit of a nice little soundtrack to accompany this, but like is like you guys can hear the music okay? It's not too loud, it's not too soft. It's a bit too loud? Okay, I'll turn it down just a little bit then. Alright. How about that? Is that a little better, or... Turn it down by just like 2 decibels real quick. When did the mod icons change for YouTube? I don't know, but I did notice that they changed recently, so... On my phone, it's good for me, but no headphones. Okay. Let's do a compromise. I'll raise it up again by 1 decibel. Yeah, it seems to be a different audio experience if you're on mobile versus on desktop. I'm not sure what that's about. Oh, 1 second. Hold on. Give me a sec. I'm on my mobile, but like on my tablet, so it has bigger speakers. Well, if you're on mobile, then put your headphones on. Jeez. No, I'm kidding. Anyway. Alright. Let me get settled in. Get cozy. There we go. Tending to wings was a ritual far more delicate than one might first assume. Elizabeth had grown used to Nerissa's long bedtime ritual, watching as the girl settled into the rhythm of meticulous preening, weaving her fingers through every feather, ensuring that each one would settle in their rightful place. And Elizabeth adored watching her sort through her feathers. She adored the quiet reverie that took hold of her beloved raven, and forced her to slow down for a while, and adored the way serenity draped over her shoulders like a blanket, fingers combing through the dark plumage with measured tenderness that bordered worship. It was in these quiet moments that Nerissa seemed most at peace, lost in the care oblivious to all but the rustle of shifting feathers. Elizabeth's favorite nights were always the ones when the hush of the night would start working its spell on her sweetheart. Slowly, Nerissa's lashes would start to flutter more than usual, her head dipping when drowsiness started to take over, and Elizabeth couldn't help but smile. "Nerissa, are you tired?" Elizabeth's voice is soft when she asks, deliberate so it doesn't startle her. A murmur escapes Nerissa's lips, neither agreement or denial, just a sleepy sound before her actual reply. "I'm almost done," she insists, though the words unravel into a small yawn. "Just a little more." Elizabeth exhales a chuckle, amusement threading through it. For someone with insomnia, Nerissa always seemed moments away from falling asleep. "Go on now," Elizabeth coaxes, reaching out so her fingertips trace the feathered softness. "Lie on your stomach. I'll finish for you." There is little resistance. After a second or two, Nerissa shifts to obey Elizabeth's instructions, her wings half spread atop Elizabeth's legs, welcoming the comfort. The world slows when she first slips her fingers through the silken strands of black. It was a familiar ritual for Elizabeth as it was for Nerissa. After so many years of tending to each other, it was only natural that Elizabeth had learned the meticulous craft of caring for Nerissa's wings. Not that Nerissa ever easily surrendered the task to her. Her feathers are precious, each one meticulously groomed, an act deeply personal to her. But there were rare evenings like this, when the drowsiness and exhaustion allowed her to take up the careful work. And if Elizabeth was honest, she adored the feel of Nerissa's feathers beneath her fingertips. "Okay," Nerissa murmured around a second yawn, shifting on her stomach to burrow into the pile of blankets and pillows. Though, instead of closing her eyes, she was already reaching for her phone. Elizabeth shook her head, amused. Keeping Nerissa still was already a challenge, so she simply let her be. She reaches for the bottle of oil resting on the bedside table, tilting it just enough to drip on her palms before rubbing them together, warming up the liquid until it's a soft sheen on her skin. She knows exactly where to start. The quills near Nerissa's spine were the hardest for her to reach, and they often would be neglected when she was exhausted like this. So with deliberate care, Elizabeth pressed her thumb and forefinger to the smaller pins teetering on the edge of shedding, coaxing the budding feathers free with slow, practiced movements. The powdery layer crumbles beneath her touch, just as dust would blow under a breeze. Nerissa's wings fluff instinctively at the foreign yet familiar sensation. A quiet, satisfied hum escapes her little blackbird, and Elizabeth could already hear the smile on her voice. "You've gotten really good at this," she murmurs, her eyes focused on the scroll of the screen. Elizabeth's smile grows, pride pooling in her chest. "I'm glad you're enjoying it, Princess." "I like when you call me that," Nerissa mutters, her voice honey-thick with sleep. The instant reply made Elizabeth chuckle, the sound warm and affectionate. She leans in, presses a kiss between her shoulder blades, the bare skin soft beneath her lips. It's a fleeting touch, yet somehow trying to communicate feelings words could not. Devotion was deeply threaded into the gesture, soft enough to dissolve into the hush of the moment. The love she felt for Nerissa defied reason, stretching past the limits of rational thought, unraveling into something that ached in its intensity. Even here, in the same room and the same bed, the longing remained. A quiet yearning that knew no distance and always demanded for more. She wanted to dissolve into her, sink beneath her skin, and exist within the same breath. It was love teetering on the edge of madness, and Elizabeth welcomed it with open arms. I know, she murmurs against her pale skin, lips grazing over the warmth of it, a whisper laced with that quiet laughter when Nerissa's feathers puff up at the sensation. Elizabeth eases back, delighted at the sight of a blush blooming at the tip of Nerissa's ears, betraying whatever cool indifference she might have tried to maintain. She doesn't need to see her face to know that shy smile that must be tugging at her cheeks, and hopefully, it's tethered with the same happiness Elizabeth feels when they're together like this. That's all she ever wanted, truly. To cradle Nerissa in all the comfort and care she could manage, in the kind of love that settles into her bones and a warmth that mirrors her own. She resumes the work, hands threading with quiet reverence across her wings, and lets herself be soothed by the rhythm. The simple repetition of fingers gliding through feathers, smoothing over pins and coaxing them into their respective alignment. Elizabeth marvels at them, at their impossible softness and the way they catch the light. A little grin sparks in her voice when she says, I should start collecting the ones you shed and turn them into a pillow. A moment passes, a little pause of quiet bewilderment, before Nerissa lifts one of her legs to deliver a light kick to Elizabeth's back with a playfulness. She laughs, the sound bubbling up in her throat. That's how it is, she teases, rubbing the spot where Nerissa's heel landed like it had been painful. I take care of you, and this is the thanks I get. Nerissa giggles, half drowsy and half amused. You'll live. Another chuckle escapes her, a short shake of her head before her fingers return to finish the work, relishing in the affection that accompanied the intimacy of caring for her lover's wings. And that's the end of that one. That's adorable. Oh my god. Nerissa, when she's not tired, twists torso 180 degrees. Oh, that was a really sweet work. Thanks for the submission. That was really cute. And thank you to Ariete for writing this, and for giving me permission to read it. That was so sweet, I'm gonna puke. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ariete is an exceptional writer. If you go to her account, she writes a lot of hololive fic. I think she does really good Blood Raven work, but she also does really good novel flame work. So, highly recommend you check her out. If you're into either of those ships or anything to do with Elizabeth or Shiori or Nerissa, check her stuff out. It's good stuff. It's not always fluffy, so if you're looking for something a little more intense, she's got you covered. And then they kissed. Something about lands burning. Who's excited for Enreco Season 3 soon? Okay. Let's see. The next few... Okay, two of these are one-shots, and then one of these is a multi-chapter work that isn't finished yet. Why did you send me an incomplete work, viewer? Dear Reiniac and or Langster, are you trying to hold me to a second reading stream in case the work gets finished? Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to hold me hostage? To be fair, apparently a new Castlevania dropped, And my groggy self was like, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yesterday during my Ace Attorney stream, I also talked a bit about Resident Evil Reiniacs, and I'm excited for that. So, I mean, I'm probably not gonna get it at like when it first drops, but like the game itself, the lore that they're setting up seems really exciting. So. Let me ask around. Okay, it's because they say it's because the first chapter is peak. Oh, I see. So it's more about the first chapter than the rest. Okay. Okay, I'll read the one-shots first, and then we'll see how much time we have for that multi-chapter one. Okay. Oh, speaking of Enreco, we've got one Enreco one right here, but it's not a Blood Raven one. This comes to us courtesy of a problematic Yuri author. And you sent me a safe for work fic from them. I certainly hope there's something problematic about this one, because otherwise this is just false advertising. Alright, let's see. This is titled Enigmatic Recollection Fuzz Rose. And the characters mentioned here are Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame and Mokoko Abyssguard. I see. I feel like the Reiniacs are being called out today. Quick scatter. Oh, you want not safe for work ones from them? I'm sorry, Candace. I saw that message and I'm just thinking of... And I'm dating myself here. But it reminds me of Ninja Gaiden Awesome from like the old Newgrounds days. I think it was an Ego Raptor animation. And it's when the Xbox Ninja Gaiden first came out and it was super hard. And Ryu Hayabusa's like, oh, you think that's hard? I'm just a tutorial level. That's the next level over there. What's up? It's just... Oh, you think that's problematic? This is the introduction fic. That's the next fic over there. And so, Langsters, the Reiniacs are scattering. Assemble! See, this is why it helps to have two sects of fandom, because then when one scatters, the other one... Alright. Enigmatic Recollection Fuzz Rose by problematic Yuri author. Summary. Codependency meets chivalry. A knight urged by righteous duty to protect a fair maiden. Notes. See the end of the work for notes. Oh, okay. I don't want to be alone. I don't like it. It makes me upset. The quavering fright in her voice sent a wave of compassion rushing over Elizabeth. Oh, don't forget the link. My bad. Thank you for the reminder. Here you go. You can follow along. I'll start again. I don't want to be alone. I don't like it. It makes me upset. The quavering fright in her voice sent a wave of compassion rushing over Elizabeth. The pink-accented woman in front of her, dog ears twitching with apprehension, seemed so frantic and fearful. And who could blame her? In this land that none of the assembled seemed to recognize, nobody knew anything except for their names. In some cases, even that eluded them, aided only by the fact that, visible to all present but themselves, their names hover somewhere nearby. What's more, as soon as they awoke in this strange land, they were tasked with fighting some mysterious force that plagued the land and sent off to save this foreign place. It was a lot to take in. And for the one named Mokoko, perhaps it was too much. Certainly too much to deal with on her own, and while she knew almost nothing about herself, Elizabeth could sense in herself a welling sensation of not only compassion but righteousness that coursed through her blood, hot as a raging flame. Still, she felt it best first to try to diffuse the tension with a bit of tongue-in-cheek. "Oh, you're only but a few steps away," she said, a mellifluous chortle from her lips. Yet the other woman was not encouraged any, and the pout on her face accompanied her retort. "I don't want to be a few steps away. I want to be by your side, okay?" Her plaintive howl stabbed at a chord in Elizabeth's heart and redoubled her instincts to protect someone who felt endangered. "Fair maiden," the chivalrous warrior placed a hand near the azure blaze over her chest. "From here on out, I promise you I will remain by your side." The sunlight gleaming behind her highlighted her ahoge, swaying gently in the breeze, a crimson slash against fear, against doubt, against despair. As Mokoko beheld such a magnificent, powerful sight, her heart began to feel first at ease, before an uplifting sensation took hold, similar to how one feels when they lift off the ground. The tingling sensation of defying gravity and rising above one's troubles sent the amnesiac canine woman into a fit of giggles. "Okay, yay!" she cheered, her face aglow with a pink flush. "Bow bow!" For some reason, she instinctively felt the need to bark with joy, a smile pulling at the corners of her lips until they became a bright grin. The heroic woman responded with an amused expression. "Bow, bow," she said, as though letting the words roll over her tongue, acquainting herself with them. The memories they lost were a source of deep sorrow for Elizabeth, yet as they rode through the sprawling and lush Lebestan wilds, Elizabeth recognized a pang of defensiveness, perhaps, toward Mokoko and the woman who, despite similar appearances, was said to not be related to her, Fuwawa. They weren't the only ones. There was the mysterious raven-haired woman, the woman with two-toned hair, and the short woman whose feet twinkled brilliantly and made music upon the ground with each step, like wind chimes in the breeze. There was a strong urge to keep an eye on them. Elizabeth struggled to put a word to it. Perhaps it was in the interest of their safety. They didn't look very strong, after all. For the most part. Not warriors like she herself evidently was, her forearms taut and firm as she gripped the reins of her summoned steed, the assuring bulge of her triceps whenever she swung her greatsword Thorn. On the battlefield, few of the assembled amnesiacs compared to her sheer prowess and strategy. It was painfully clear when they first squared off against the Stain King and his horde the first day they arrived. While Elizabeth had stood perched on a wall to observe foe and fellow wayward soul alike, she noticed that most of them lacked the battle intelligence, opting instead to swing their weapons wildly and scream not with determined vigor, but with frantic instinct and the primal urge to survive. Still, Elizabeth had to admit to herself that Mokoko wasn't an inept fighter. With the claws on her hands, she was dexterous enough to slash her opponents to pieces, and her instincts sharp enough to avoid taking mortal damage. Not that fatal wounds were all that much more than an inconvenience, anyway. Elizabeth herself had been felled in battle at least once, yet simply by passively wanting to continue her existence, she seemed to bypass the hereafter and return to a nearby point and continue the fight with no difficulty. In any case, in the few days they had spent at each other's side, Elizabeth and Mokoko came to rely on and support each other in battle and outside of it, traversing the dungeons that dotted the land of Labistal in an effort to recover that which was lost to them. They had learned much of each other's strengths and weaknesses. Mokoko's natural curiosity led her to find things that others might not have easily discovered if they hadn't consciously thought of deviating from the obvious path, for example. Or the fact that Elizabeth's combat experience allowed for any battle sprung upon them in the wild or in the dungeon to pass without concern. But more than just skirmishes, Elizabeth found a certain joy in watching Mokoko solve the puzzles that challenged the mind and rewarding her with a tousling of the hair on her head. Mokoko responded best to being praised and being told that Elizabeth was proud of her. One was practically able to see the stars in her eyes glinting from space. And each time the warrior woman's heart would skip a beat, the tightening in her chest telling her that clearly this was the right conduct, that this must be part of the shared history they collectively lost when they woke up here. Elizabeth opened her eyes, crimson pupils taking in her surroundings once more as the reality of the present situation. The crawling sensation in her mind, the aching in her head as something whispered in her ear, the burning pain in her legs from the fall that plummeted her into this pit in the ground. She winced, gingerly touching a hand to her knee. The space was cramped, hardly any room to sit or kneel. It would be, except that Mokoko was in here with her, short, bushy blonde hair brushing against her face. It took focus to shrink the size of her flame so as not to risk leaving a scorch on the poor woman. One instant, that's all it took. Elizabeth noticed the expression of shock, of terror, of desperate fear written into every line on Mokoko's delicate face. It wasn't enough that the poor girl had fallen into a deep pit in a dungeon with little hope for escape, but she also was the most affected by the miasma of madness swirling around the eldritch labyrinth. The Scarlet Warrior reached a hand toward the overwhelmed Canid, hoping the warmth from her touch would reassure Mokoko somewhat. "Hey, look at me. We're going to get out of this, okay?" she whispered, her eyes tracing over the fraught details of Mokoko's face, taking in the dirt-scuffed abrasions on her cheeks and the nervous twitch of her ears. "I told you I wasn't going to leave your side, didn't I?" she asked with a dry chuckle. She obviously hadn't intentionally thrown herself in here, but rather failed to see the pit after hearing Mokoko scream, until it was too late and she had joined her guildmate in the hole. The two Jade Sword adventurers were packed tight together, and though initially their adventuring party had gathered to see what had become of them, they all realized rather soon that there was nothing they could do to get them out of this predicament. Leaving them with platitudes and condolences, knowing they'd respawn as soon as they died, the rest of the team continued their quest to search for a flower sought by the spirit of the dungeon. "That's all well and good, and maybe even the pragmatic answer," Elizabeth thought to herself. "But what about now? What about what will happen to us between then and now? What about Mokoko?" The pallor on the other woman's face was so bright it could be mistaken for a miniature moon, the bright contrast to the darkness at the bottom of the pit. Her eyes were becoming more dim, the light behind them robbed increasingly by the second. Sanity was losing its tenuous grip, mania was taking over, and soon Mokoko would be overcome with madness and a painful death. It wasn't even that they wouldn't remember dying, just that it didn't take. Elizabeth wrapped a firm, strong arm around Mokoko's waist, pulling her in closer and touching their foreheads together. "Stay with me, Mokoko. Mokoko. Focus on the softness of my glove. Focus on the point where our heads meet. Focus on the sound of my voice. In here, it's just you and me," she whispered, her voice a soothing coo as she brushed a terrified tear from the corner of Mokoko's eye. "Hey, we're going to be all right." Upon seeing the features of Mokoko's face continue to devolve into a detached grin, Elizabeth let out a gasp, a breath that barely escaped her tightened throat as the canine woman clamped one hand around her wrist and the other firmly around Elizabeth's throat. "We're stuck here forever. We're gonna die here," Mokoko said, her smile widening further and further like a fissure that continued to chisel along her face rather than a natural line. "But at least you kept your promise." With that, she tightened her grip. "Don't leave me, Elizabeth." Her voice came out warbled, echoing, as though not just her own voice but that of someone else layered over it. The night grimaced, pain radiating from where the sharp fingernails of the other woman dug into her skin. It was getting harder to breathe, and Mokoko was much more physically strong than she was, despite her more trepidatious personality. Elizabeth was, after all, only human, and perhaps it was that all-too-human heart that allowed her to think what she next thought, to take an action of which most others of higher existence may not have conceived. Defying her survival instinct to get away from the stranglehold, to try to clamber up the wall and leave Mokoko to her own devices, she instead closed the scant distance, those precious few centimeters, and gently pressed her lips against the other woman's. The graze of sharp fangs nicked her skin next to her lip, but she held fast and moved no further, retreated no quarter. The shocked gasp, muffled by the contact of warm, full lips, melted into a reciprocation, a loosening of grip, a falling into place. However frayed and tenuous Mokoko's remaining sanity in this place was, it was enough to anchor herself in reality through Elizabeth's lips, through her touch, her hand that never left her cheek even when she bruised it with her unhinged outburst. Elizabeth felt Mokoko's body become somewhat limp, relaxed in her embrace, comforted by her protection. Yes, protection. This was just to protect her, as promised. These as of yet indescribable instincts didn't allow Elizabeth to ascribe a word to them, and for the moment, she didn't care. Let them perish in this hole together. In this strange place, death is cheap anyway. But at the least, if she can protect and soothe Mokoko. Wait! Liz pulled away as a flash of inspiration sparked in her mind. Turning away from the stunned Mokoko, she thumbed through a tome she woke up with when she first emerged in the foreign land. "We can use the book to get out of here. It'll teleport us to a previous location." Turning to Mokoko, she offered a smile. "Shall we?" The canine woman took a few seconds to register Elizabeth's words and plan, but she snapped to attention and hastily nodded. Let's go," she said, her energetic nature restored, even if she still felt the crawling of forbidden knowledge in her brain, the memories of ghastly visions no one else in the group could see due to her harshly decreased sanity from all the cursed books she read earlier in the dungeon. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, both of them reappeared at the start of the current section of the dungeon, free from an ill-fated fall, yet... Mokoko put a hand to her chest. Why was it all aflutter? As she stared at Elizabeth from a distance, watching as she rejoined the group to finish the puzzle and recover a lost memory, why did something in her heart of hearts hurt so much? Shaking her head, she scampered toward the others, wearing her usual bright smile, fuzzy hair bouncing gently with each bounding step. Whatever happens, she knows Elizabeth is there for her, and that's all she wants to think about. that was adorable. Notes. Thanks for reading. I know this is rather indulgent, but it's a brainworm I've been entertaining ever since they began to interact in this AU, so... And wow, my first Hololive fanfic. This is going to be a very fun hole to fall into. Don't worry, my usual brand of problematic Yuri will come into play for all of you problematic Yuri author fans. Just don't judge me too harshly, yeah, Holo fans? Oh, this was their first Hololive fic. Wow. I guess Enrekos ensnared another one, huh? Not bad, problematic Yuri author. Not bad. Also, Elizabeth and Mokoko. Wow, that's a... not really a ship anyone really thinks about. Pretty good. Enreko, eventually they all succumb to me. That was the first problematic Yuri author fanfic I've ever read. Oh. I took a quick look. What else do they do? Oh, they've written for a lot of fandoms. Okay. Not bad. Let me see. Let me catch up to chat real quick. Okay, what if Hollow X Bridgerton fanfic? Oh? I'm sure Elizabeth and Narissa, yeah, Narissa was mentioned in there. I'm sure they would love that. I keep hearing about that show, and I know I should get into it just to keep up to date with, like, what everyone's talking about and prestige television and all that, but time issues, you know how it is. Never enough time. Never enough crony. Elizabeth will be by her side no matter what. Remembers the chicken incident. I wonder if this was written before the chicken incident. Think it was before? Oh. Oh, I can only imagine how they felt during that scene then. If it was before the chicken scene, oof. Damn. No, the first dungeon? I don't know, because like Enreko season 1 was all the myth stuff, and I remember Amelia was the last dungeon. I think Callie was the first dungeon, Gura was the second, and Ina was the third, and then Kiara was the fourth. Yeah, I think that's how that was, yeah. So I think this is the third dungeon, but it took a while before we got to the chicken incident, so... Let's see. Okay, so this next one is titled Blood Raven. Can You Hear the Raven Sing? Also by problematic Yuri author. Gone ahead and linked it in the chat for you guys to read along. No chickens were harmed during the filming of Enreko. Enreko is performed before a live studio audience. Let's see. Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame, there was a Ravencroft. Tags pre-debut Advent, pre-debut Justice. Oh. Does canon compliance matter? Studies say no if the story is cute enough. See, I love AO3 tags because people can just put anything in there and they can just put their own little like commentary in there. It sort of forecasts what the work's gonna be like. No beta, no proofread. This is all fired from the hip. I wrote this on the train to work. And this is published late 2024. Wow, we're seeing some vintage stuff here, huh? My lord, is that story canon? I will make it canon. Alright. Can you hear the raven sing? Summary. Singing the song of love-struck birds. It is the song of she who'll never be caged again. Oh god, really? A Les Mis reference? Okay, no, but really, birthday gift fic for Nerissa if she sees it, just conveniently timed publishing for the fic of fluffiness if she doesn't. Amazing. Okay. Let's start. Wonder if she ever saw it. It's Nerissa Ravencroft we're talking about. That girl is online more than she sleeps. You don't even have to tag her and she'll like something, so I'm sure she's definitely given some of these a read. So, fanfic writers, watch out. I'd watch what I write about if I were you. She's probably seen it. Odds are she has. And, yeah. She monitors more than Elizabeth does. Are you kidding me? Fanfic writer, she's in your walls. Fan artist, she's also in your walls. She's practically like over your shoulder behind you right now. This will somehow end up in her recommends. I don't doubt that they have that, like, she has like an account under a different name and like, I don't know. Or she just like quietly reads as a guest. Okay. Her eyes opened to reveal that the walls of her cell looked as dilapidated as ever. Ever since her internment here, it's not as though anyone came in to do maintenance on the walls that, while resolute, showed signs of age, bordering on outright bursting into cracks along its surface. The faint light of the lanterns adorning extravagant sconces showed the real focus of the ones running the containment facility. She shook her head. Something felt different about today. She glanced at the subtle notches she scratched into the wall. With a small gasp, she realized almost immediately what it was about today. It was her birthday. The joyful surprise soon dissipated into bitter resignation, however. It's not as if it would be spent anywhere different. She was the birthday girl in jail. The rush of air as a door swung open sounded, and the demon of sound perked her ears up. Following the opening, one, then another, clacking of heels falling upon the ground echoed through the halls. It wasn't all that long before she noticed a glowing blue light drifting in her direction. How her heart soared the moment her mind registered the sight. Her excitement mounting, she gingerly held the bars sealing her inside the cell, pressing her face to the heavy iron to see as far down the hall as she could. Moments later, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame approached the cell. Her expression was as severe as ever, and the poise with which she conducted herself was just as swoon-worthy as ever. The flickering of the firelight over her chest seemed to grow more agitated, almost imperceptibly to anyone except the resident of the cell. Scarlet eyes fell upon her, and the mouth that seemed fixed into a frown curled in the opposite direction, almost impossible to notice by all save for the demon inside, who had all her features memorized. Nerissa Ravencroft. Her elegant accent floated in the air, wafting through Nerissa's ears and drawing all too easily a silly grin on the inmate's face. Step back from the bars, please. Aw, no birthday kiss first? The demon pouted with a playful wink and puckering her lips. The expression on Elizabeth's face remained as undaunted as every other time she made these sorts of advances. The blue blaze that rested upon her, however, flickered just a fraction quicker than before, an action invisible to any except Nerissa's smirking face. She complied shortly after, stepping back toward the wall of the cell with her hands up. Another search, then? Maybe you should do a body inspection, she giggled mischievously. Elizabeth remained silent after her initial command. When Nerissa had retreated a distance that satisfied the harbinger of order, the redhead reached for a set of keys that dangled from her hip, never once breaking her focused gaze away from Nerissa. The key slid into the cell door, then turned, and a small click sounded just before the key jingled out of the lock and back onto Elizabeth's hip. The knightly woman carefully, slowly opened the cell door. Nerissa's heart skipped a beat, then thumped faster than ever. Could it be? Was today finally the day? Is it over? Is she? So many questions shot through her mind like a lightning bolt each, but before she could open her mouth to ask a single one, Elizabeth spoke. This is not a release. This is not a pardon. This is not freedom. And just like that, the horned woman's heart plummeted all the way back into the pit it had just began to rise out of. She must have seen the pain and sorrow in Nerissa's face, because while her face remained as stoic and expressionless, the next words seemed different. This is a favor. Her voice was gentler, by the smallest of breaths different from her usual tone, inaudible to anyone except the woman who had been here longer than this current guard had been alive, and could quite possibly be here long after she's gone. Nerissa remained silent and waited for Elizabeth to finish opening the door. The woman clad in white beckoned to her. Come with me. The demon uncharacteristically held back her witticisms and quips as she obeyed, walked towards, then beyond, the bars of the cell. But before she could take in too much of the sight, Elizabeth's voice carried behind her. I'm sorry, but you'll have to wear this, she whispered just before a silken blindfold was placed over her eyes. Nerissa instinctively gasped, her face feeling hot. Oh, I didn't know you were into this. She was unable to stop herself from saying it, but Elizabeth's total silence clued her into the reaction. You're totally blushing right now, aren't you? Just because I can't see it doesn't mean you're not, she teased. Elizabeth cleared her throat. Please follow me, she said before taking Nerissa by the wrist gently and beginning to walk slowly in a direction. Oh, okay. Nerissa's surprised tone sounded before she grunted, stumbling along without sight. It was a somewhat uncomfortable gait for her, led along by a woman shorter than herself. Her long legs struggled to find satisfactory footing, and the doubled clacks of their heels was mildly disorienting without sight to give context or warning. Still, it wasn't an unpleasant walk, and she felt a smile pulling at the corners of her lips. So what's the surprise? Is it cake? Is it ice cream? She gasped dramatically. Is it a stripper? She laughed, to no response. Oh, come on, Elizabeth. At least give me something to work with. I'm just a girl. It's my birthday. At this point, she was a one-woman show with an ironically captive audience. The silence was broken by the faintest of snorts, exhaled by none other than the woman holding her hand. Wait, when did she change from grabbing her wrist to holding her hand? An action unnoticed by all, including the woman wobbling about blindly. Nerissa smiled to herself. The sound of water alerted her first to a change in environment long before the feel of warmth on her face. Then, a breeze? Nerissa stood stock still, disbelief in her eyes evident even through the blindfold, for Elizabeth seemed to respond directly to it. "You can take it off now," she said, and the demon couldn't be fast enough to yank off the blind. She yelped as sunlight shone straight into her face, golden beams of light the first to greet her. As she averted her gaze, ducking somewhat away, she found herself almost face to chest with Elizabeth, the glow of her flame for once not the brightest light in the area. It was strange. Elizabeth cleared her throat, and Nerissa sheepishly righted her posture, a blush on her face. "Sorry, not intentional. This time. I swear," she said, rubbing the back of her head, just before the full breath of her surroundings caught up to her. Sunlight. Presumably the early morning light streamed all around them, illuminating in full clarity the vast ocean beyond the jail. The cliffs they stood on were awash with wave after wave of salty seawater, the faintest spray of which registered on her face. On the ground around them, roses shimmered with dew in the golden glow of the morn. How? Her gaze finally settled on Elizabeth. Why? The question she at last was able to ask, and all she could muster, was the single word. The right side of Elizabeth's lip pulled upward, just slightly, into the smallest smile Nerissa ever saw, but also the first break in the redhead's expression that she ever beheld. Just that much was enough to make her heart jolt. "A favor," she repeated the word from earlier. "Just once, just today, the gods have allowed me one favor. To not let you be alone on the day of your birth." Elizabeth stepped aside, her cape flowing behind her in the ocean breeze, as she gestured for Nerissa to stand closer to the edge of the cliff. "Happy birthday, Nerissa Ravencroft. On this one occasion, you may sing to your heart's content." Nerissa, dazed, slowly made her way to the natural stage that waited for her. As she passed Elizabeth by, she gazed at her, red eyes meeting each other, unspoken words communicated in a single blink. But before she walked by, she brought Elizabeth into her arms in an embrace. The knight let out a small, startled gasp, before relenting and her stiffened posture easing into a one-armed return of the gesture. Nerissa's wings unfurled tenderly, wrapping around the woman who had given her the best gift she could never even think of asking for. Then she stood at the edge, overlooking the sparkling waters below. Slowly, hesitantly, she opened her mouth and began with soft vocalizations. How long had it been since she last uttered such a sound? How long since... Her hand reached up to the crown of her head, then to the side. Gently touching the damaged horn, she continued to warm up her voice. Her vision blurred slightly as the sound of her own voice singing filled her ears, the act of projecting herself to the expanse beyond, something she felt sure she'd never feel again. Somewhere in the tumult of her own emotions spilling over in song, she was vaguely aware of another voice, joining hers and harmonizing. It was soft, restrained, almost held back with as much force as its user could summon. But it was there, mingling with hers nonetheless, unable and unwilling to be completely stifled. That day, the last ember that Nerissa believed extinguished throughout her time in prison, gently sparked back to life. It glowed in her heart and endured. The memory of that morning song shared with Elizabeth, the birthday that she looked back on as a sort of rebirth of herself, renewed her hope of seeing the sun again, of singing again. And on that day, about a half a year later, when she broke out with the rest of Advent, Elizabeth would be among the first on the scene. She would find a note tucked into the fragmented wall. It read, "Hiya, darling. If you're reading this, my escape has been made. Sorry, I like you, but this bird needs to spread her wings. But thank you for giving hope back to me on my birthday. Well, this paper is short, so I'll stop. See you soon. Nerissa." Her lips pulled into a taut line as she read it, and she sighed as she held the note against the flame over her heart. As it burned, she simply smiled. Notes. Thank you for reading. Wanted to do something sweet for Nerissa's birthday. If she ever reads this, I will explode. Anyway, I will try to get something done by tonight, that I will definitely explode if she ever sees. What was the follow-up to this? Let's see. Huh. Probably. Well, going to the author's page, oh my. Anyway. That was cute though. Good job again. Problematic Eerie author, good job. That was so cute. Yeah, it was. Let's see. And the last one that has been submitted to me for today is a multi-chapter work that is currently up to 6 chapters. And it's not finished yet? Oh, this is AO3. What am I talking about? These people can go forever if you let them. These people could write millions of words for their, like, OTPs or their, like, blorbos. Time to read all. You want me to read all 6 chapters? You're crazy. You're crazy. I don't know about that. Let's see. This one is titled. Let me share the link with you. This one is titled Enigmatic Recollection Skull Flame. Tags Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame / Maury Calliope. Maury Calliope! GG Marine voice. Let's see. Characters: Maury Calliope, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame, Nerissa Ravencroft. Comfort Angst, useless lesbians, gambling, in which I present to you the rarest of pairs, probably. I propose the ship name Skullflame. Oh, okay. So this was PYA's founding of the ship, huh? Didn't exist before, huh? Well, I see your rare pair and raise you. I don't think I've ever seen Ina and Liz in the same room. So I think that one is like still rarer, but I will admit this one's a pretty rare one. I don't really see people talk about like Callie and Liz together. That's interesting. I think so far of the myth of the Elizabeth ships, except for the obvious, I think the one that's winning right now is Elizabeth and Kiara, Eternal Flame. That one is getting has a lot of support. So okay, let's see. Summary. When a certain blue woman breaks her heart, Elizabeth finds comfort in the company of her comrade and guildmate, Mori Calliope. I'll read chapter 1 first, so we'll see where we go from there. Chapter 1. Oh, this has a chapter title too. Kiss from a Rose. Notes. This is effectively an AU of an AU, so character dynamics are subject to be reworked, and certain things might be bent to make this whole nest of whatever I'm doing, but I hope you enjoy the ride. Oh, real quick, let me just drink some water real quick. Just noticed I read like 3 fics and hadn't drank any water, so I wanted to fix that a little bit. Okay. Effectively an AU of an AU. Interesting. Yeah, I guess Enreco is an AU, so this is like a double AU. Double checking, did I send the link? I did, okay. Heartbreak. That was a new type of pain that she wasn't well acquainted with. She felt it in her bones, in her very being, that she was trained to withstand most kinds of pain, to withstand any physical abuse or even psychological sway that an enemy might attempt to deal upon her. Yet the one thing she never trained for, the one thing she never could have imagined taking into account, was this feeling. It hurt like a stab, but there was no blade to remove, no wound to treat. It was an invisible gouge in her very essence, something that could not be remedied nor ignored. It just was. It was all-encompassing, yet numbing, and it is what dictated her feet to wander across the Lebeston town, straying toward a place she'd not entertained the thought of going to more than once on a lark, and certainly not a place she typically would have stayed. Yet this ache, it demanded an unconventional balm. The loud clamoring noises and bright lights ill-suited the presence of Elizabeth R. Bloodflame, in a normal situation at least. Yet here she was now, greeting the one they called Buki, and placing a wager at the color cannon. She murmured a number and a color, and listlessly walked to her seat, waiting for the game to start. I hope pink wins, a Lebeston sat next to her said. I don't think there's any pink, sir, Elizabeth retorted, the want to smile going unfulfilled. She wanted to joke, to enjoy herself, yet all she could feel was a wide, gaping void where everything else should have been, swallowing the parts of her that made her, her. The cannon beeped, readying its aim before blasting away. Several blue blocks, a few green ones, and a scant few yellow. The red was untouched, thankfully. She had bet the highest amount on that, and it would pain her to see her wager go to waste. Though, perhaps not as much as thinking about that woman with raven-colored locks and eyes sparkling like rubies, with plush lips that drew the gaze and each shape they made as she spoke. Elizabeth winced, cradling her face in her hands briefly before the sharp sound of cannon fire sounded again, and she hastily glanced up to see what survived. Her bet was still secure at the moment. The numbness in her seemed to make the time pass much more slowly than ever, or perhaps it was the illusion of eternal daylight that the casino employed. The sound of a cannon loading and then firing, and red was blasted away. At this rate, blue was likely to be the winner, which would net Elizabeth a loss. She sighed, no longer interested in the game of chance, simply idling the time until it ended. Looking around, she saw Lebestons of cheerful demeanor gambling in good spirits. Was she the only one who was here in a time of great dispirit? When the game ended, predictably blue was the surviving color, Elizabeth returned to Bouquet and placed a new wager, then repeated the cycle of betting and sitting, sitting and betting. Each time the game started, the same high-voiced Lebeston would comment on the hope of a pink winning, while each time Elizabeth parried with the fact that pink was not an existing color to choose from. She began to fear that the older citizen was out of touch with reality, yet at the same time finding herself envious of such a thing. Again and again, the games came and went, and her coffers grew thinner and thinner with each bad bet. She felt numb to the prospect of becoming destitute. It was the 5th game in a row she had begun to play when the sound of footfalls echoed in the gambling hall behind her. Didn't think I'd find you here. Didn't think I'd find you here, came a low, husky voice. Elizabeth turned to find herself staring right at her guildmate. The woman she had learned was the disciple of the Grim Reaper, Mori Calliope. The pink-haired Reaper looked as stunning as usual, her pomegranate eyes shimmering with supernatural sheen. She wore a playful smile on her face as she nodded over to Bookie. Placing some bets, huh? It's not the kind of behavior I'd expect from you. Something happened? Elizabeth felt her face grow warm, and she stammered in an attempt to explain herself. Yet words failed her, and she simply stood, an embarrassed expression on her face. The Reaper chuckled. Hey, relax. I'm not trying to grow you or anything, just color me surprised to see you spending any time in a gambling hall like this. In my experience, there's only a few reasons someone as upstanding as you would be here. And you're here alone, aren't you? Elizabeth nodded. Maury placed a hand on her shoulder. Hey, why don't I join you for a few games? It's better than wallowing alone. I can tell you that much. The craving for company in her despair was too great an urge that she accepted with a rapid nod of her head. There was a bit of light brought back to her eyes as she placed a bet, then sat down next to Maury. I hope pink wins. The voice of the Lebeston gambler came from nearby. Elizabeth turned her head. How many times do I have to tell you? There's no pink. Silly. She shook her head, turning to Maury with a grin. Poor sod. He'll never win if he's truly betting on pink. Her guildmate shrugged, then grinned. Maybe he's saying he hopes that my bet will win. She said, rolling her eyes as she realized how cheesy that sounded immediately after uttering it. Elizabeth, however, gasped. Oh, you're right. Maybe he was waiting for you the whole time, Callie. she said, an exaggerated awe in her voice and gestures. Both women laughed, and the game began. 3 games in a row, and Maury had won each of them, while Elizabeth's gold reserves continued to dwindle. Noticing the frown on the noble knight's face, the Reaper tapped her shoulder. "Hey, wanna blow this joint? Why don't we get something to eat?" she asked, jabbing a thumb in the direction of her diner. "My treat. What do you say?" Elizabeth hesitated, but when her stomach grumbled, she couldn't help but nod. A brief horse ride later, they arrived in the familiar, cozy environs of Maury's diner. The Reaper/knight/tavern owner quickly set to work behind the counter, whipping up something that smelled inviting. Elizabeth busied herself with walking along the walls, staring at the decorations or out the window, and wondering what to put on the jukebox. She gingerly held the vinyl record that held the song entitled "Excuse My Rudeness, but Could You Please R.I.P." It was so tempting to put it on. It was her favorite song of the ones available, but she also knew that Callie did not enjoy hearing it. Something about cringe and does not represent her music styling accurately. Her attention was brought back to the present as she heard the clink of dishes setting against the countertop, and she made her way over. Seating herself, she thanked Callie for the food and set about enjoying a milkshake. The cold, thick sweet treat eased her apprehensions somewhat, and a small smile played at the edge of her lips. "This is amazing, Callie. I love it," Liz praised, earning a small blush from the Reaper. "Ah, heck, it's nothing much. Just glad you like it," she replied. Leaning against the countertop, she stared directly at Elizabeth's eyes. Part of the knight's instincts was to hold the stare evenly, to not shy away. But there was something about the way that Callie was staring at her that made her feel a bit giddy, shy, and yet entranced. "Liz," Callie started, "be honest with me. Are you alright?" Elizabeth's smile faded, her crestfallen expression answering for her. "Was it that Nerissa chick?" Liz nodded. "Well, hey, you're too good for her anyway," Callie said, crossing her arms and letting out a small huff. "If she can't appreciate you, then who needs her is what I say." Elizabeth can only nod in response. "I suppose that's true," she said, playing with the straw in her milkshake listlessly as she tried, and failed, not to think about the willowy woman that once, in jest, yet so convincingly, called her Romeo. The sound of a seat cushion next to her made her attention jump to her right, and suddenly she saw the porcelain skin of Maury Calliope's face mere inches from her, her right hand clasped in both of the Reaper's own. Despite being a soul collector, there was no coldness in her touch. Rather, it was warm, comforting, almost able to dispel the persistent thoughts in her head. Almost. "You're too good for her," Callie prodded, the look in her eyes more than concern. "You're... damn." She looked aside for just a moment, then let out a sigh. "Look, you're a cool and honorable knight. We at the Jade Sword are lucky to have you at our back. You're everything a knight should be, and you're..." There was a shimmer in her eye, as though a buildup of emotion hiding just behind the crimson gaze. Callie lowered her head, a hissing inhale sounding from her. "I wish you could remember," she said finally, her voice soft and tinged with disappointment. "I do too," Elizabeth said. "My memories. I wish I had them just as you do. You speak of me beyond just what we have been through together as guildmates, don't you?" Matters of emotion and the heart weren't her strong suit, but that did not mean that she was blind to them. She gently squeezed Callie's hand. "Would you tell me a little bit of what I'm like, as you know me?" Maury Calliope turned, resting her elbows on the countertop and placing her chin in her hands. There was a wistful expression on her features as she spoke. "What I remember of you is you're very driven. You have a strong sense of right and wrong, and you're adamant, but conscientious. You also have a voice that lights up a room even brighter than that fire there on your chest, she said with a small smile, as recollection seemed to work its way through her mind. Your skills with a sword, both here and back there, are nothing short of amazing, and hearing you sing is practically a priceless gift you hand out for free. Nobody really deserves it, but why would anyone turn it down? It's like being handed diamonds. You know you haven't done anything to earn it, but damn it, it's too nice to pass up. Elizabeth's face felt hot, and she suddenly found herself unable to look at Callie. Turning her attention to the milkshake in front of her, she surreptitiously drank from it in one long inhale. She heard the pink-haired woman laugh a moment later. Wow, that really did something, huh? Your face is almost as red as your hair. That didn't help matters. Oh, did it just get redder? Wow, underneath the cool and strong night is someone not used to being complimented, huh? It's kinda cute. Liz withdrew her lips from her straw. I'm not cute, she said with a small pout that contradicted her words. I'm powerful. This only made the Reaper burst out laughing and made Elizabeth wonder why that phrase sounded so familiar. Was that something she said? Was she called cute often? There was a buzz in her mind, as though the echo of a multitude of voices combined to say the word cute. Her flustered expression remained, and she racked her brain to change the topic, but before she got the chance to, she felt Callie's finger hook underneath her chin and turn in her direction, as though suddenly demanding her undivided attention. You know, the Reaper spoke, once again, but a scant few inches from her face. It's unfair that I got my memories back so soon. Think if I was still forgetting who I was, I'd probably do something stupid. Elizabeth's eyes widened and she found herself transfixed, simultaneously unable and unwilling to move from her position. Callie drew closer. After all, I have both sets of memories now, and I remember back when I opened this place that I wanted to take you here when no one else was around. Kind of like right now. Elizabeth couldn't bring herself to break the eye contact, but she remembered the door was closed and night had fallen. Just about everyone else was asleep or nowhere near the Jade Sword territory. They were completely alone. I remember, Callie continued, her eyes shining with intent like jewels of the underworld, wondering just what a mortal like you would taste like. Her voice was deep and low, a breathy whisper as she drew even closer, their noses just barely brushing against one another. Elizabeth's vision swam. Why was her guildmate speaking like this? A fellow honorable knight before her memories were restored, and an inconceivably more astounding thing upon her remembrance. Why was Death's disciple speaking to her, a mere warrior maiden, as though an object of desire? Yet she didn't find herself objecting. On the contrary, her eyelids fluttered, and her widened gaze narrowed slowly, more and more, as she found herself under the spell of Mori Calliope. Her heart thumped in her chest like a war drum, her chest completely still as she found herself forgetting to breathe, and she closed her eyes, ready to accept whatever the Reaper would deign to give her. She felt something touch her lips, causing her to pucker them slightly in return. After a brief moment, she realized what she was making contact with was not Callie's lips. They were too thin and firm? She opened her eyes, stunned to find that Callie had placed a finger on her lips. There was a hint of regret in the Reaper's eyes as they finally gazed at each other again. Slowly, the tavern owner retracted her digit, smiling somewhat sadly. It wouldn't be fair to take advantage of someone with no memories, though, she said with a sigh before her expressions shifted and she wore almost flawlessly a mask of casual cheeriness again. If not for having witnessed her put it on herself, Elizabeth would have been none the wiser. I should close up for the night. Even a Reaper needs sleep, you know. She stood, stretching, a pop here and a crack there. You're welcome to stay in the accommodations upstairs, though. Callie winked. Elizabeth, at a loss for words, simply shook her head. I, have a place. It's fine. I'll just. What I mean is, I appreciate the offer, but. Callie waved her hand. I get it. Don't worry. She clicked her tongue. So, see you tomorrow? Elizabeth nodded. Yes, of course. See you on the morrow. She politely bowed her head in thanks for the hospitality, then stood and crossed the room toward the door. She placed her hand on the handle, hesitating. Turning her head, she saw Mori Calliope wearing a smile to send her off. Returning it with one of her own, she opened the door and stepped out, closing it behind her with a soft click. She waited a few minutes, unmoving from her spot as though expecting the other woman to come back. When she didn't, Callie groaned to herself. That was so stupid, she cried out to herself. Why did I even tell her that? Am I trying to help or not? Ugh. She flailed her hands in agitation before pausing and staring at the finger of her right hand. She slowly brought it up to her face, staring at the fingertip that was the lucky recipient of a kiss from a knight so brave and beautiful. Before she could stop herself, Callie brought it to her own lips and kissed the same spot. Her eyelids closed, and for a moment in her mind's eye, she could see the expression Elizabeth had when she kissed what she thought was the Reaper's lips. But the dream had to end sometime, and she opened her eyes again, pulling her finger away from her face. She was alone again, staring off into the distance where Elizabeth had walked away. Maybe when you get your memories back, she said. Or whenever the inevitable happens, she said, a hollow grin cracking her face. I'll pluck you someday, my rose. That was a pretty good chapter. That almost could have been a standalone all by itself. What the hell are the other chapters like? I told you it's peak. There's 5 more chapters, you say? Well, I think I'll get to them another time. Well, that's all the submissions I have for today, and I guess that's just as well. Yeah, I just wanted to do something a little fun for you guys and just read out some fanfic, because, you know, reading is kind of my whole thing, and kind of figured it'd be fun to explore the more, I say, how do I put it? Like, official printed stories are one thing, but there's always such of like process to them, such a bureaucratic process, whereas fan fiction, I find, is often more raw, unfiltered passion, untouched by like corporate interest or, you know, publishing houses and editors and all that stuff. And of course, you know, there's places for that, there's use cases for that, but sometimes it's just nice to see what someone's stream of consciousness or just someone's pure like love of a character or pairing is, and just seeing them put stuff to paper. So I wanted to explore that realm a little bit with you guys today. But yeah, I will probably do another AO3 stream at some point. You know, I just felt that today was very thematic since tomorrow's Valentine's Day in my time zone, and it's today for some of you, so some of you out there, or at least getting very close to it. So this is my Valentine's gift to you, Reiniacs and Langsters. Hope that you enjoyed listening along to that, and yeah. I will, as usual, have my schedule out by Sunday. and I can pretty much tell you it's gonna be more Ace Attorney, that much for sure. The rest, I don't know. I'll work on that and figure it out before I publish the schedule. But we are currently in the middle of an extremely long Ace Attorney case. We had just started it yesterday, so we're gonna be here a while. So feel free to hop along and check out the VODs of my Ace Attorney playthrough, or just I have an Ace Attorney playlist as well. I think I need to update it, but yeah. So if you're interested in that, otherwise, I will work on what else I'm going to do next week, and my Valentine is raccoon support plush. Orders plush. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think that's all the announcements I have for today. Thank you so much for being here, Reiniacs and Langsters. Thank you for being part of the stream. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed, not just my narration, but the works themselves. If you enjoyed what you heard, and want to see more from the authors, like I said, definitely check out their work. They write good stuff. Go ahead and check out Arietti's stuff, and it looks like Problematic Eerie Author's not too bad as well. So, yeah. Certain individuals would say Ray Von Karma go burr. Yeah, that Von Karma bit was really fun. Alright. Well, my friends, my wonderful listeners, my Reiniacs and Langsters, that's all for me for today. And until next time, make sure you eat well, stay hydrated, and get lots of good rest. Be kind to yourselves and be excellent to each other, and have a radiant rest of your day. And of course, as always, the most important reminder in the world: make sure to unshrimp yourselves. Take care, everyone. I will see you next time. Yes, that is my cat in the background. He is being very demanding. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.